just start.
So,
We'll talk about.
all right, cool. Welcome everybody. We're gonna try to do this on time every Friday, 7 a.m. California time. Rajiv ji is our immigration lawyer. So we want to start today, Rajiv ji, with the H1B visa fraud, which is like big news thing happening. Um, One, like if you can explain how does that work, like why, how can that fraud even occur? And then the
Okay.
consequences of people who are trying to do something like that, or how can someone prevent like that?
So I have talked to a few people from the community who have set up consultations, and basically what the law permits and what the law does not permit. Let's talk about that.
Mm,
The law does permit you to have multiple filings as long as the companies who are entering you in the lottery are not related to each other. They don't have common officers, common stockholders, even common projects. So it's a completely separate set of actors. And they are not colluding with each other. They haven't conspired with each other to increase the chances of an H1B beneficiary.
mm,
Okay. So unrelated companies, genuine jobs, and no collusion. These are the three basic requirements. Okay. So in the consultation yesterday, that gentleman asked me, and this was really, I can't really. I have my I understand a lot of these things, but it does just. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I can understand why people need to do it.
mm,
So he's working for a Fortune 500 company.
mm,
They've been trying. They tried last three times. This was his last attempt.
mm,
He says that uh, six or seven different companies contacted him to that they will enter him in the lottery and they have jobs for him because his resume is really good. So he said they were not charging me anything. I said, why not do it? Okay.
mm,
So I said, where are these companies getting your addresses?
mm,
And are these companies related to each other? So, well, they're not related to each other, but there's something going on because it looks like they're picking resumes from things like Dice. And so they might have a crawler or something that goes and crawls for all these resumes.
right.
And then some kind of an algorithm that decides these resumes should be contacted because they're probably looking for H1B lottery.
Mm,
So I didn't go into any more detail,
mm,
but this is a prototype of
mm,
one type of situation.
mm,
And this is the second consultation I've done in a week where somebody's working for a very good company. Okay. And they were just nervous and they said, okay. Um, and they have, none of them have paid any money. It's just $10. The companies have spent the money. I'm not sure what the business model is. I can only think of one thing. Maybe what they expect is that they can then place the employee at the same location where they are working under a
mm,
contract. Okay.
mm,
But that's not what he told me. What he told me was there was a separate job. Each company had a job for him.
mm,
On my Instagram, somebody was posting that's not what these guys do. And I understand. I understand also the frustration of those people who feel that they are being gamed out of the lottery. I do
mm,
understand that, but I also understand people who are desperate, who have spent a lot of money getting education, and they are spending in dollars, but they're supposed to earn in rupees. It's difficult,
mm,
but there is no excuse for breaking the law. I understand, but there's no excuse for
mm.
it. So be careful. Now, what he wanted to know was what is the worst that can happen? Okay.
Yeah.
So first question was, should I apply through my company? That's a
Mm,
genuine job. And two, what is the worst that can happen? I said, let me take the easy question first. What is the worst that can happen? The people who did the multiple lottery
mm.
can go to prison because when they signed
Ah.
the
Mm,
lottery, they electronically signed under penalty of perjury, which is a crime punishable, I believe, by 5 years in prison. That's a serious term of imprisonment. Okay.
mm,
And if you have a pattern and practice, you probably will get all 5 years thrown at you if you get arrested
mm,
and convicted. So I said the worst case scenario, the companies who have signed these declarations under penalty of perjury, we are not colluding, we are not trying to increase the chances of somebody, and we have a genuine job, um, they are exposed to criminal penalties. Okay. How about the individuals?
Mm.
So there is a separate crime. I'm not a criminal defense counsel. I've worked with many criminal defense teams for immigration purposes, employment based immigration purposes,
Yeah.
all over the country. But that's not my expertise. It is my belief that even if you don't actually do an act, but you are a part of a conspiracy, you are as guilty as the others. So, for example, yesterday
Mm.
there was a conviction out of DC for these Proud Boys. The
Mm.
two of their leaders were not even present in Washington, D.C. when all those crimes happened.
Mm.
But they were still guilty under the theory of conspiracy because they were a part of a scheme.
Mm.
If you and I scheme that we are going to rob a bank locally, I don't know, in San Francisco, I don't do anything. We just plan. And I tell you, okay, Yuri, that's what we are going to do in this. You do everything. I am as liable as you are.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. So, under the theory of conspiracy, individuals can be hauled into, but that's a more difficult case to prove.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because if I don't know what is going on, or at least it's difficult to prove. I don't have to prove my innocence; they have to prove my guilt.
Mm. Mm.
So this is the difference between immigration and criminal defense. So that is the worst that can happen. You can go to prison.
Yeah.
What is likely to happen? They will definitely, if they catch you, they'll send a notice of intent to revoke, no matter through whom you have applied.
Mm.
So I said, if you're going to apply, please sit with your lawyers who represent your company. Tell them what happened. Be upfront about it so they can plan for this.
Mm.
Okay? So if a company asked me, and my first question would be, have you talked with any of these companies?
Mm.
If you have not, do you have any relationship with these companies? Three, are you willing to go to court over it if I have to?
Mm.
Because we'll win. If you're not
Yeah.
involved in these schemes, they can't withhold the H1B.
Mm.
Okay. But if
Mm.
the employee is involved, they can get at him for, for conspiracy and things like that. These are all very difficult things to prove, practically speaking, because even though a lot of this crime is paper based, but conspiracy is not paper based. There won't be any emails or doubtful. These are
Mm.
basically phone. So one of the things he said, these companies called me when the individual I
Mm.
was talking to.
Mm.
I said, do you have phone records that they called
Mm.
you? Because if somebody calls you, you have an incoming call.
Yeah.
And he felt that he had some, but he didn't have some. One or two companies he called. I didn't think he was being upfront with me, and I told him you should be. But um, it's what can I say?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Even well-qualified people are sometimes stuck in this position, or they choose to be in this position.
Mm.
Personally, I think you have jobs in India, as many as you have here. Of course, economy is suffering everywhere. There's no doubt about that.
Mm.
But even now, people are. I told you last time also, employers are saying we can't find people, and I don't
Yeah.
understand this discrepancy.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
if
There's
there
a
are people,
definitely a gap. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's something not. I don't know what's going on. So anyhow, so now the question is, what can happen to my H1B? Well, it could be under notice of intent to revoke. Then you'll have to prove that there was no um, um, bad acts on your part. And remember, it is very difficult to prove the existence, the non-existence of something. So
Mm.
if I tell you, prove that you have never lied, how would you ever do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not possible. It's very, very difficult to prove the negative of a fact.
Mm.
It is easy to prove, Yudi, you lied, and here is the
Mm.
evidence.
Yeah.
And you say, I
Yeah.
never lied, you can never prove that.
Right.
You can say, I didn't, this was not a
Mm.
lie. That's a different thing.
Mm.
So it's going to be complicated. But if you, I look, my approach, practice of law, personal life is very simple. I tell people the way things are. And sometimes I'm not very popular. And sometimes I lose a, but that's quite all right. I would
Mm.
rather lose a client than lose my soul. Okay. So if
Mm.
somebody is clear, they should come up and they should tell the employer, look, this is what happened. And if I lose my job, so be it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, that is my advice. Now, if these things change tomorrow, and I feel that USCIS, despite their best efforts, can't really be very aggressive, things might change.
Yeah.
And it is a
And
fact that USCIS doesn't have the resources to go after everyone. They have said handful of companies. What does that mean? One handful, five companies, or two handfuls, 10 companies.
mm,
Okay. But it looks like these are the only suspects they're going to go after. And they are responsible for 98,000, right? 98,000 applications.
yeah. 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 So technically, what I mean, just to understand what really happened, there's obviously 85,000 total application that gets approved every year, and out of that, uh, 700 or so, 700,000 or so people applied, but in that 700 or so, 400,000 plus applications were like duplicated, like one person used five different companies to apply for himself and or herself,
Yep.
and that's h I'm kind of surprised that why did they not, like, they were able to recognize this after the lottery but not before. So I'm wondering, like, if can I mean, with the AI and all that, they should be able to
Not,
recognize it and
not even AI, UD. This is
mm.
not even AI. All it takes is one dumb SQL query. Okay. All
Yeah,
you need to see is here is the passport number.
right.
Now find me all the fields in
Yeah,
all the records which contain this passport number.
yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
you could do a multiple field key search.
Mm,
This is
mm,
the first name, this is the date of birth, this is the passport number.
yeah,
It's a query. It doesn't need
yeah.
AI.
True, true. So now USCIS is investigating, saying that okay, we're gonna investigate these 400,000 or 98,000 or so people, and worst case is they might go to prison, but most likely cases that H1B will get revoked.
Tell
We
you
don't.
the truth, I would like to see all these companies, all the people who've done this fraud behind bars.
Mm,
I don't think they have any business trying to game a system. A
mm,
country that has been good to all of us.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just not right.
yeah, yeah. Someone says duplicate filter in Excel.
Oh, there you go. Well, it's not Excel. We have some kind of database. I hope
Database.
not
Yeah, yeah,
Microsoft.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, cool. Do you feel this is also probably a question, what's the road ahead you see? It's become very difficult to get H1B with so many application every year. The probability seems very low nowadays. So do you feel like USCIS is going to do something different next year, or
Well, American Immigration Lawyers Association has recommended that
oh
tie the
point?
lottery to the passport so that
Mm,
there's only one entry.
mm,
Okay. And I'm actually okay with that.
yeah.
The only problem is, though, Yuri, that there are people where I know people who have three or four genuine job offers from good
Mm,
companies.
mm,
And then why should the companies not be allowed to enter them? But
mm,
then again, that's law, and he should choose or she should choose one company and go through them. I think one lottery, one person is fair.
yeah. 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 All right, cool. Thank you, Rajiv ji. Let's move on to Q&A. Anything else? Anything else?
Somebody had a question about what do you think is the road ahead?
Mm-hmm.
What was that question? It's become very difficult to get H1B with so many applications. Yeah, I agree with you. The probability seems very low nowadays. Guys, look for quota exempt positions also because there's a whole huge market for them.
Mm,
Non-profit research organizations, any non-profit, as long as they are primarily engaged in research, social research, psychological research, hard science, soft science, any kind of research. Okay, number one.
mm,
Number two, state research or federal research, government. Okay. Number three, and this is very ignored, uh, academia, institutions of higher learning or non-profits associated with institutions of higher learning. So I'll give you an example. I'm doing a case right now. Yesterday only, I started working on that case. So the question was, is this college professor who is being uh, recruited by, let's say, a company that does a lot of education counseling all over the country, but they are for profit. They are placing the professor who is also going to design their curriculum, the schools, the college's curriculum. And the college is a community college. Okay. So they're going to work there, and part of their job would be to teach, and part of their job would be to design the curriculum. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, Now, is this job quota exempt, and can we file an H1B? Yes. Why? Because the way that institution of higher learning is defined, any
Hmm.
any any education agency that offers um, degree beyond the secondary education, so associate's degree, bachelor's degree, so all the community colleges qualify, and of course
Hmm.
universities and Ivy League are obviously qualified, as long as they are um, non-profit.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, the only caveat is that the job should be at that site. So you can't have them working remotely or from your office. Okay. I
Hmm.
take issue with that. I think that's an incorrect interpretation of the law. And I think that should be challenged. Uh, I had a client for whom they raised that issue, but they didn't want to argue the case in court. I would have loved to take it to court because I think this interpretation is incorrect.
Hmm.
It out of step with today's reality, because at doesn't mean you physically have to work at.
Hmm.
That's a very silly um, interpretation of the rule, but it is what it is. So don't forget to look for quota exempt jobs. Remember, your employer can be quota employer, but the job can be quota exempt. So I hope you remember some kind of research job, non-profits, higher
Yeah.
learning. So
And
just keep this in the back.
yeah, I think someone reached out to I forwarded that person to you, or I asked him to reach out to you. He was doing ML. His title is ML research engineer, and he was asking me the similar thing. So I said, Just ask him or come here." So they'll
Yeah,
host.
that's one. Another thing I want you to remember is, if you are highly qualified, O1 is an option.
Yeah, true.
Um, then, if you were born in a country other than India, or if your wife or husband is born in a country other than India, directly applying for a green card may be an option. So
Mm,
there are all these other things that you could think of. If you are from a treaty country, for example, from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, if you have a treaty with USA, we could do an E2 visa for you. Canadians have it. A lot of the European countries have it. E2 visa
mm,
requires very little investment, $100,000 to $200,000.
yeah, yeah,
So there are other options that should be looked at. Don't just assume all is lost.
yeah.
Unfortunately, the for a country that is considered to be a first world country, our processes are third world. Even worse.
Mm, mm,
Um, we can't seem to agree on what the right laws are. We can't seem to agree what the right execution is.
yeah,
So we are stuck with the system. It's still a good system, but it has its huge flaws, as we have seen.
yeah, yeah. Right. Some burning questions here. Currently on STEM OPT expires May 2024, which is next year. Didn't get selected for H1B this year. One chance next year. My firm applies for PERM right now and moves me to London next year. Can I come back once PERM gets approved? H1B exempt due to PERM approved.
Hey, Daksh. I mean, I would love to see that happen, but are you India born? We don't know that. Let's assume that you are India born, and let's talk about when you are not India born. When you are India born, you have a problem because the green card stages are going to take that long. But of course, if you're not India born, this is a good option. But let's not ignore the L1 option. Okay. Intra company transferee. I invite you all to Google or Bing or whatever the heck you choose. Use a search engine and type intra company, one word, intra company transferee, TRANSFEREE, two E's. Intra company transferee, USCIS policy manual. It's nicely laid. It's one of my favorite readings. USCIS policy manual lays out what the requirements are. It doesn't have all the details, but 80% of what you need. Okay. if you can get into a situation where you're a managerial or executive level employee outside USA for 1 year, um, your green card would be in your hands in a couple of years after that. And you can come
Mm.
back on that one within a couple of weeks after the 1 year is over. So if Ramchandraji can do it for 14 years, you can do it for 1 year. So, we came back to
Right.
his kingdom, you come back to
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Something to keep in mind. So
Yeah.
L1A is a great option.
Yeah. But is this still feasible for him or no?
Why not? So let's look at his question again. Currently on STEM OPT, expires May 2024. Didn't get selected for H1 this year. One chance next year. My firm applies for my PERM, sure, and moves me to London next year. Uh, can I come back once PERM is approved? H1B exam due to PERM approved? No, 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 no. That's an incorrect understanding of the law. Just because your PERM is approved or your I-140 is approved, you don't become quota exempt. Quota is still hanging on your head. Now also see if the firm that you have can get you into a quota exempt job. But just because you're PERM approved doesn't mean you can come back.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Someone says, I think it's unfair to say that country has been good to Indians with the way green card backlog is for Indians.
See, my I be rude with you, okay, Siddharth.
Mm.
Not out of any malice towards you, but I like to be honest. Go back. Why are you here?
Mm.
We are here because we like the system, we like the cleanliness, and we don't. Overall, this country still works for us, and we work for it. Without us, this country has a lot to lose as well. I'm not saying it's a one-way relationship, but you are here. Obviously, you're getting something out of it. So for you to say that it's unfair, I want you to re-examine that. My question is very simple. Then why are you here? Why don't you go back?
Mm.
If you can
Mm.
answer that question, I would love to hear from you.
Mm. All right. If someone applied with a company, with a company, that company dispersed his profile to the other three companies without his consent, would the application be responsible for the misuse of the company or consultancy? Yeah, and this is probably what was I was trying to ask you in the beginning as well. That there are these consultancies who will use the network of other companies and apply on this
Oh,
behalf.
Ahmed, this is where things get tricky because
Mm.
now we have two different areas. One is immigration law, and the other one is criminal law. In criminal law, government has to prove that this was all done with your knowledge. In immigration law, you have to prove that this was done without your knowledge.
Mm.
That's the difference.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm. If you get H1B approved and somewhere down the line you change jobs, the new job is related to another degree from the past, would you have to enter into
No,
the lottery?
no, no. The lottery is personal to you, not to your degree,
Mm.
at least not so far. Could they make it like that? That'll be silly. I mean, if you qualify for two jobs, I always talk about myself, bachelor's degree in biology and chemistry, few degrees in law, I can qualify for either job.
Yeah, and the second part is, what if the degree, the new job is related to is same, but it's a different field?
Same answer. You would
Yeah.
still be quota exempt. So let's say you are an IT guy and you went from being a database administrator to um, a programmer or a coder. Yeah, you're still H1B quota exempt. Or if you went from being a network engineer, let's say, to cybersecurity specialist, still exempt.
Yeah. Um, USCIS should move to point based H1B or some other way of giving H1B instead of playing bingo with us.
Well, um, one of the anti-immigration lobbies had a suggestion to go back to the highest paid paradigm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Only
remember the
those who are
wage based.
most highly paid. But the criticism there was, and I don't remember exactly how it was met. What about smaller companies? Look,
Yeah.
what Microsoft can afford to pay you, I can't afford to pay you. I'm a small business.
Right.
Okay. So if
Yeah.
I want to hire a programmer, I can't start you off with a salary of $175,000.
Mm.
So that will price me out and that would affect the smaller business negatively. And I think they had some way of making that work. But if they can make that work, I'm actually okay with that. I think that's a
Mm.
good system. And I'll tell you
Mm.
something, at least 80% of my clients will pay the higher amount
Mm. Mm.
because they
Mm.
already are. Especially many of our clients are product companies. They have their own
Yeah.
products. They're really hurting because they can't find the right people. Um, they are, and it's very inefficient to have. Also, sometimes it's not legal, especially in the fintech industry. There might be some restrictions on what you can move out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep. Yeah.
so it's it's an unfair system on many counts. The
Mm.
way it started, and the part of the problem is the politics.
Mm.
To this day, we don't have a good study, bipartisan study that says are H1Bs good for the United States or not. Try asking Chat GPT that. Just say, uh, are H1B visas good for the United States economically or not? Give me your sources. No
Right.
sources.
Yeah. 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 Right. All right. My wife OPT expires in February 2024. We were looking to move her status to H4 EAD. How long does the process takes to convert H4 and get EAD, and how and when should we file so that there is no employment gap?
It takes several months. Now, I can't tell you how many months because the times fluctuate. Government is trying to get better. But don't be surprised if it takes 6, 7 months or even more to get H4 and H4 EAD approved. And there is no guarantee that the H4, they can't approve the EAD without the H4 getting approved. But there's no guarantee that the H4 and the EAD will be approved at the same time. The only guarantee there is something called bundling. So if you do an H1B amendment extension or transfer, and you bundle your wife's H4 and H4 EAD together with your amendment extension or transfer and premium, you will get everything premium. That's because of a litigation the government settled.
Mm.
Okay, so that's the quick way to do it. Rahul, I applied for
Uh,
multiple H1B and got picked by one consulting. Now, should I go ahead and file my H1B through them route route the current employer, or is that too risky? Should I go ahead and file my H1B through them to route? So, in other words, I want to be placed back to the same employer as a contractor. So, listen to the first 8 minutes of our discussion today, and then you make up your
yeah.
mind. You
Yeah.
probably have missed that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Looks like they um, really admire the work you do. I understand your point. I'm grateful for the chance to work and make a living here. I just felt the lanes are different for different countries, which sometimes can be unfair.
Well, talk to me about unfair. When I came to this country, I had a master's degree, a graduate program from Canada, very good university. I had come from the Supreme Court of India. I had a degree from George Washington University. I sent out 500 resumes, not one interview. Okay. Um, I was willing to even become a paralegal. No problem at all. No
Mm,
hassle. Even a law librarian. I just love the profession of law.
yeah.
Uh, was it unfair? Well, it is not unfair. It is understandable. It may, from my perspective, look unfair. It's understandable because, see, employers don't want to hire, especially law firms, somebody who could have a license to practice, but according to them, not enough knowledge to practice law. It's difficult for
Mm,
them to judge foreign lawyers. Okay. Though in those days, there were no Indian lawyers here, not too many. Okay.
mm,
So was it unfair from my perspective? Yes. But did it work out okay? Yes, it did. It worked out okay. I'm doing fine. And within a year of getting my first job, the law firms that denied me um, even an interview, they were the firms I was hiring to get some of my work done. So I was their boss. It's kind of nice. Now, are
yeah.
there different for different people? Well, first of all, is there a racial motivation in this country underlying many things? Sure. Are
Mm,
many people, just equal number or even more people absolutely fair-minded? I think so. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Um, Now, is there a racial undertone in visa reservations? Why do we have the same number of visas for every country?
Mm.
Some of us have 1.3 billion people, and some of, or is it 1.4 by now? 1.4 billion people, and some others have 300 or 600 citizens. Vatican City is an example. Okay. Um, yeah, I think it's unfair, but look, unfair from your perspective and fairness from the perspective of a country are two different things. I want to make this very important point. I get very rightfully chagrined people saying, oh, this country, they don't treat us well. I said, well, my first question will always be, then why are you here?
Mm.
If
Mm.
you are here and until you get your green card, you're a guest. Okay. You have to play by the rules that have been laid out to you. You may not like the rules, but they are the rules. And we have
Yeah.
to play by them. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Wait.
Overall,
Okay. Sorry. I know you have probably have to go, but we have
no,
10 minutes.
no,
So
I
yeah.
want to finish this up. We can
Yeah.
stay as long. I just told these guys they can start drinking without me. They don't need me. I'm
All
gonna go
right.
drink coffee
Yeah.
there anyways. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I know there
um,
are some burning questions too. So yeah.
no, we'll take as long as it takes. It's all right.
Okay. Cool.
So
Yeah.
so don't worry about the question of fairness or not fairness. Worry
Mm.
more about, does this work for you right now? Okay. At a systemic level, we have to desire change, but don't be obnoxious about it.
Mm.
You know, my recommendation is civil unrest and even not violent, but vigorous demonstration and vigorous um, conversation doesn't have to be violent or vituperative. It doesn't have to be ugly. We can make our opinions known without resorting to ugliness.
Mm.
Always ask yourself this question: why am I here?
Mm. I like it.
Oh,
That's cool, right?
you got fancy.
Daksh, L1 is surely feasible in my case, so I think
Oh
that's
boy,
a
Aksh, I am so bloody happy. I'm actually excited for you. It is
yeah.
such a cool way to go. Just do one
Uh,
thing. Make sure
Sorry,
your
this is his
lawyers,
full question. Is purely
uh,
feasible, but can
yeah,
my
yeah,
firm?
absolutely. They can apply for a H1B also. And you don't have to go to India. Wherever you are located, you can go there. So if they move you to England, you can interview for H1B visa stamping in London or even
Mm,
Paris. If you happen to be there with your girlfriend that weekend, you can just
mm,
go and interview. You can interview in any consulate. Okay. I want to point something out to you, a very important practice pointer. Make sure your London job is reviewed by your immigration lawyers. They should be able to tell you, well, this will work for L1A. And then also, your job when you come back to the United States after 1 year is also reviewed by your lawyers. As long as they bless the two jobs, you're good to go.
All right, lots of questions. So here we go. I have on-campus job which is 35 years, so
35
35
hours.
hours per week for the summer, and I also have another remote offer which is 32 hours per week from a company in New York for also for the summer. Can
I have to look at the regulations. Regulations during summer times are different than they are
yeah.
during school time. I do not know the answer off the top of my head. If you are not able to find the answer, just talk to your DSO first. If you're not able to find the answer, I want you to go to this website, dhs dot one word studyinthestates.gov.
Mm,
dhs.studyinthestates.gov. This site should be your Bible. If you are a student, this site should be your Bible. Why? Because it's run by the Department of Homeland Security. Whatever it says, it is the law. They can't go back on it. So if you read it on immigration.com, I could be wrong.
mm,
Okay. Or my
mm,
interpretation could be unacceptable to the government. But if you go
yeah.
to .gov site, whatever it says, that is the law.
Yeah. Just it says
Not
study
only
in the
that,
states.dhs.gov. Just
very good
wanted to
website. Also, it
yeah.
has both perspectives. It tells you what you should do as a student and what you should do as a DSO. So you can actually even see what DSO, what screens the DSO sees. They have both
Mm,
sides. Very nicely done. My favorite site.
nice. Cool. All right. Being in H1B and used to work in New Jersey remotely, never had to go to client, vendor, nor employer location, fully remote. If I move to Georgia to stay with my family, what changes should I do in my H1B?
It will be an H1B amendment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, can you please explain 60 days grace period work for H1B? For example, I was unemployed for 20 days between first job and second job. If I get laid off from second job, will I have 60 days or now 40 days because he already uses 20 days?
You, this is not like OPT and STEM OPT. This is different. It's like, think about it, taking a dip in river Ganges, Ganga Snan. Every time you take a dip, all your sins are washed away. You can do new sins. Okay. So each job
I love
will have
that.
60 days. So first job, let's say in between first and second job, you took 59 days to get your H1B filed. So that means you have only 1 day. Now, from the second job, again, there is a problem. You quit. You have 60 days again between second and third job. So
Mm.
think about river Ganges.
I have to do this.
Again, really, I like some music also. Some I'm not
Here
music.
we go.
I mean, I like the rhythm. Yeah.
I-
Muhammad Salim, is it better to get H1B on a non-cap now? I mean, a civil service position. There's no civil service position, Mr. Salim. I don't know what you're talking about. But if you get in a quota exempt job now, sure, take it. Even while you're on quota exempt, you can continue to apply for lottery through the quota every year. Okay. And also, quota exempt job allows you to have a concurrent H1B for a quota job without going through the lottery. Keep these 2 points
Mm,
in mind.
mm. Will I still get the OPD extension for 2 years after my initial first year if my visa is expiring in
Yeah.
2027? Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So,
I'll be
visa
graduate.
expiration. So, if your question relates to visa expiration, your visa doesn't have to be valid for you to get an extension. Okay. Visa is for traveling in and out of US.
Right. So I think then that person would have it can still be applied for extension, but then if they go out, then they have to come back
They
with a
have
new
to go
stamp.
for a visa stamping. So my recommendation would be don't travel if you can avoid it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never know with consulates what they're going to do.
Yeah. I did not get H1B picked and I'm applying for F1 visa now. I'm also hoping for any H1B will get picked in the second phase in June. Will it be problem if I get F1 and H1 get picked in June?
So I
Hmm.
don't think it'll be June. I think it'll be closer. If there is a second lottery, it'll probably be July or late July or something like that. That's my guess. But is it okay if you go to F1 then get picked up for the lottery and come back? Yes, absolutely okay.
Hmm.
And I like your optimism. Good for you.
Yeah. My sister works with the state of Indiana. Is she eligible for H1B
No,
non lottery?
not just because she works for the state of Indiana, but if she works, for example, of I don't know, Department of Highway Traffic Research, yes, because that's a research department. Now,
Hmm.
her job doesn't have to be research, but she should be supporting the functions of such an organization. For example, a database administrator.
Hmm. If I accept job offer from one company and start my H1B transfer, can I accept another job offer within 1 month from a different company while my transfer is still pending? Hmm.
Um, well, I'm not sure I don't think he's a lottery guy. He's out of the lottery because he's starting H1B transfer. So you're not under the lottery. So this is the only thing you have to watch. First of all, you can have 5 H1Bs going on at the same time. So let's say you were with company one, two, three, four, five. You applied for transfer to two, then you got three more job offers. You applied for 345 transfer as well. All of this is okay.
Mm.
Okay. But the key thing is that you should be in status when you applied for company two. And if you're out of status for 3, 4, or 5, then all the previous H1Bs must be approved for you to get status within the United States. So the daisy chain should not break.
Mm.
You can have as many going on at the same time as you want.
Mm.
Man, this
Is it?
law, immigration law is so
Yeah,
odd.
yeah. Is it bad to show US funds from H1B sponsor for an F1 visa interview?
I do not know, Abhishek. I haven't looked at this specifically. Discuss it with your DSO. They should know the answer. But this is not a question I have ever answered before. So I'm not sure. I don't want to just make things up for you.
Mm.
And if you
I-
can't find the
Is
answer,
it
come back.
is it
Yeah.
is it similar to someone funding like my uncle or aunt funding my F1 visa or like my student education?
Yeah. That's the idea. So the thing is, let's say your uncle was also on H1B.
Mm.
So his question is, can I show funds from my uncle who's on H1B?
Ah, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't know. Okay.
I have no clue.
All right. My I485J EAD and advance parole is approved. My case is transferred to FO.
Okay, if your 485J is approved, okay, not 485, but 485J is approved. Okay, my case is transferred to FO. What is FO? Field office. Last, I love the way they use. I have never used these abbreviations. FO last Feb 2023. When do I expect the 485 to be approved? You should look at the local processing times. They report these processing times.
Mm.
I'm concerned. Oh, I didn't get that.
Oh, sorry. Uh,
That was the last sentence I didn't catch.
mm,
Daksh is gonna
uh,
do all right. That guy with the L1.
yeah, yeah.
Good.
Um, Lost it,
Very good.
but anyway, it's 8 my time. I'm assuming it's 11 at your time. So enjoy your lunch and dinner or lunch. We'll talk soon. Thanks,
Watch
everybody.
people drink.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Enjoy, everyone, and thank you, Rajiv ji. We'll talk soon.
See you guys. You're getting fat.